Have you ever noticed your body showing strange signs that you couldn't quite explain? As we grow older, our bodies start to send us messages, some gentle and harmless, others far more serious. What many people don't realize is that your body can show warning signs when the end may be near. These are not everyday aches and pains, nor the typical fatigue that comes with aging. Instead, these are clear, specific signs that doctors and health experts often point to as markers that life may be nearing its end. Today, we will walk through 7 of these signs together. As you listen, pay attention to how your body feels. Reflect on what you've noticed and allow this knowledge to empower you rather than discourage you. By the end of this video, you'll not only know what these 7 warning signals are, but also have the wisdom to handle them with strength, acceptance, and grace. These signs are not meant to take away your hope, but to give you clarity and perspective on the precious time that remains. Now, let's get started. If you find this topic meaningful, please subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video that could bring comfort, understanding, or guidance to you or someone you love. Sign 1: Rapid and unexplained weight loss. There comes a time in many lives when the body begins to tell stories that words cannot express, and one of the most haunting yet revealing of these stories is sudden, unexplained weight loss. It is not the kind that follows a change in diet, a renewed will to exercise, or a doctor's advice to shed a few pounds. No, this is weight that seems to melt away quietly, almost as though the body itself has decided to let go of what it no longer needs. The cheeks hollow softly, the hands grow thinner, and the once familiar shape in the mirror starts to fade like an old photograph losing color. For those who witness it in a loved one, it can be heartbreaking, for it often comes not with fanfare or warning but with subtle shifts, clothes fitting looser, rings sliding easily, or belts needing new notches. In the beginning, it may even be dismissed as stress or a temporary loss of appetite, but over time the truth becomes clear: the body is changing from within. What happens in these moments is more than mere weight loss. It is a sign that the body's inner workings, the organs, cells, and systems that have long labored in quiet harmony, are beginning to slow. The digestive system, once busy breaking down food into energy, may now struggle to do its job efficiently. Nutrients that once nourished the body are no longer fully absorbed. Muscles lose tone not because of laziness, but because the body is redirecting its limited energy toward the most vital organs, the heart, lungs, and brain. It is as though the body, in its deep wisdom, begins to tidy itself, conserving strength for what truly matters in its final chapter. This change can happen for many reasons. Sometimes hidden illnesses like cancer, organ failure, or advanced heart disease are quietly at work beneath the surface. Other times, it is simply the natural rhythm of aging taking its course, the body signaling that it no longer seeks growth or repair, but rest and release. For those living through it, there may come a moment when food no longer holds its familiar comfort. Favorite dishes lose their flavor, and the aroma of once-loved meals no longer stirs hunger but brings a sense of indifference. Even when appetite is present, just a few bites may bring fullness or fatigue, as though the act of eating itself demands more energy than the body can spare. Loved ones often find themselves trying to coax or plead, "Just a little more, for me," but the truth is that this decline in appetite is not a refusal of care, it is the body's gentle way of saying, "I do not need this anymore." What makes this sign so emotional is the way it challenges our instinct to nourish and protect. We equate feeding with love, and when someone we care for no longer eats, it can feel as though they are slipping beyond our reach. But it is important to understand that this stage is not about stubbornness or surrender, it is a biological transition, one that signals the body's preparation for peace. For caregivers and families, it becomes an act of love to shift focus away from calories and toward comfort. Instead of urging food, one might offer soft touches, small sips of water, or simply presence and conversation. Sometimes a cool cloth on the forehead or a favorite song playing quietly in the background brings far more nourishment than a full plate ever could. When rapid weight loss comes, it also brings emotional ripples. The person experiencing it may look in the mirror and see someone unfamiliar staring back, a thinner face, looser skin, a sense that life's energy is fading. This can stir feelings of sadness or fear, but it can also spark deep reflection. It reminds us that the body, no matter how strong or beautiful it once was, is only a vessel, a sacred home for the soul's journey. And when that vessel begins to lighten, it is not always a tragedy. Sometimes it is an act of grace, a way of preparing for release. The mind may resist, but the body often knows when it is time to let go. For loved ones watching, acceptance is rarely easy. Every instinct says to fight, to feed, to fix. But wisdom lies in recognizing when gentleness is the greater gift. Rather than forcing meals that cause discomfort, you can offer moments of peace, sit together near a window, hold a hand, whisper memories of better days, or simply breathe the same air in quiet companionship. The goal is no longer to rebuild the body but to nourish the spirit. When weight fades, it does not mean the person's worth or essence is fading too. In truth, the body's lightness often reveals the depth of the soul beneath it. It is as though the physical shell grows thinner so that something eternal inside can shine more clearly. Doctors often describe this phase as the body turning inward. The systems that once interacted constantly with the outer world, digesting, moving, building, and repairing, now begin to close their circle, focusing energy inwardly for the journey ahead. This explains why appetite wanes and why strength seems to dissolve. It is the body's way of protecting itself, prioritizing rest over renewal. And though the changes may look alarming, they are often free of pain. In fact, many people describe this stage as one of deep calm, a quiet sense that the body is slowing down in its own natural rhythm. For those left behind or standing by, understanding this can bring comfort. It teaches that not every loss is to be fought, some are meant to be honored. Weight loss in the final stage of life is not a sign of defeat, but a quiet acknowledgement from the body that its purpose is shifting. It no longer seeks to grow or compete but to find stillness. Accepting this truth allows love to take on a new form, one that is not about saving, but about witnessing with compassion. Families who learn to see it this way often find a strange peace in the process. They begin to measure health not in pounds regained, but in moments shared, smiles exchanged, stories told, gentle laughter that lingers in the air like a soft goodbye. And so, when the body begins to lose weight for reasons unseen, let it not only serve as a warning but as a teacher. It reminds us that every breath, every heartbeat, every meal once enjoyed was a gift of life's energy, and that even as that energy fades, the love shared remains untouched. We may not be able to stop the loss, but we can give it meaning by meeting it with understanding and grace. The body, in all its wisdom, does not fail us, it leads us quietly home. Recognizing this sign allows us to trade fear for compassion and to focus on what truly endures, the dignity of the person, the comfort of the heart, and the timeless bond between those who stay and those who are gently preparing to go. Sign 2, Persistent and Extreme Fatigue. There comes a point in many lives when the simple act of moving, speaking, or even staying awake begins to feel like an impossible task, and that is the quiet herald of what doctors often call persistent and extreme fatigue. This is not the ordinary tiredness that follows a day of labor or a restless night, nor the weariness that fades after a short rest or cup of tea. It is a deeper exhaustion, a heaviness that seeps into the bones and the soul, making every motion feel as though one is walking through water. The body, once lively and eager to rise each morning, begins to ask for rest again and again, as though it no longer has the strength to answer the world's call. The person may find themselves sleeping for long stretches, waking for only moments before the pull of slumber claims them once more. Even simple acts such as dressing, holding a spoon, or whispering a few words can leave them spent, gasping softly as though they had run a great distance. To those who stand beside them, this change can be both startling and sorrowful, for they remember the laughter, the vigor, and the light that once filled that same person. Yet what appears as weakness is, in truth, the body's sacred process of slowing down. In these moments, the body begins to conserve its final stores of strength. The heart may no longer pump blood as swiftly as before, the lungs may struggle to draw in full breaths, and the blood itself may carry fewer nutrients and less oxygen to feed the organs. Every function becomes deliberate, purposeful, focused on survival rather than activity. The body grows wise, choosing to spend its limited energy not on movement or conversation, but on the quiet work of keeping the most essential systems alive. To the outside eye, it may look as if life is slipping away, but within, the body is merely simplifying, setting down its burdens one by one. It no longer fights to keep up with the pace of the world, but instead turns inward, preserving what little power remains for what truly matters. This is why extreme fatigue is often seen in the final chapters of life. It is the body's way of preparing for rest, not out of despair, but out of deep, natural wisdom. For the person living through it, this exhaustion can be confusing at first. They may wonder why their limbs feel heavy or why they no longer have the strength to do the simplest of things. They may apologize to loved ones for being lazy or weak, not realizing that what is happening is beyond willpower. The body, like an old clock that has ticked faithfully for decades, simply begins to slow its rhythm. And just as no one scolds the clock for its gentle ticking, neither should we scold the body for its quiet surrender. It has served faithfully through seasons of joy and struggle, and now it seeks only to rest. The person may notice that even thinking feels slower, as though the mind itself has grown weary. Words may come less easily, thoughts may drift like clouds that cannot quite take shape. This is not forgetfulness, but the natural slowing of a mind that has carried the weight of many years. For families and caregivers, this stage is often one of the most difficult to witness. The instinct is to awaken, to energize, to encourage movement, to bring the person back. But in truth, the kindest thing one can do is to honor the body's need for stillness. When fatigue becomes overwhelming, even conversation can feel like a demand too heavy to bear. Instead of asking questions or urging activity, sometimes the greatest act of love is simply to sit nearby in silence. Let your presence speak what words cannot. A gentle hand on the shoulder, a soft blanket tucked beneath the chin, the warmth of companionship, all these things say, you are safe. You can rest. When fatigue claims the body so deeply, peace becomes the most valuable gift of all. In many ways, persistent fatigue is the body's quiet farewell to worldly busyness. It marks a shift from doing to being, from striving to simply existing. The person may find joy not in conversation or television, but in the hush of a quiet room, the glow of sunlight across the floor, or the faint sound of birds outside the window. They may appear distant, yet often they are deeply aware in another way, listening to something softer than the world around them. Loved ones sometimes misread this as detachment, but it is not. It is simply the soul drawing closer to peace, the body learning the rhythm of release. From a medical point of view, this fatigue often arises because oxygen and nutrients can no longer reach every corner of the body as they once did. The heart and lungs, burdened by years of faithful work, begin to labor with less efficiency. The energy that once went into walking, talking, laughing, or thinking is now redirected toward the quiet beating of the heart and the soft rise and fall of the chest. Even digestion slows, for the body no longer seeks large meals but small sips or bites, enough to sustain comfort but not growth. The slowing of one system affects another, and soon all the body's processes join this quiet symphony of slowing down. It is not chaos but coordination, the body's graceful way of preparing for its final rest. Emotionally, this stage can stir deep feelings in both the one experiencing it and those who love them. The person may feel frustration, longing to do more but trapped within the limits of their strength. They may wish to comfort others but find even words too heavy to form. For family members, the silence and stillness can feel like loss before loss, a slow fading that tugs at the heart. But understanding brings peace. To know that this is not giving up, but the body's natural closing, allows one to replace fear with tenderness. When you see your loved one dozing more often, speaking less, or choosing stillness over activity, remind yourself that the body is not failing, it is simply finishing its work. The best way to respond in these moments is with gentle acceptance. Keep the room calm and quiet. Speak softly and lovingly. Offer small comforts like a warm blanket, a favorite scent, or the soothing rhythm of familiar music. Let your touch be light and reassuring. Do not rush them to eat or move, for such things may cause more weariness. Instead, offer rest as a blessing. Say with your presence, "You have done enough. It is time to be at peace." Many families find that when they stop fighting the fatigue and begin to flow with it, a sacred calm fills the space, a stillness that feels almost holy. In truth, persistent and extreme fatigue is not the body's enemy, but its final guardian. It protects the person from further struggle by slowing them down gently, like a loving hand easing a tired traveler into rest. The body knows what it is doing, even when our hearts wish it otherwise. So when you see this sign, do not fear it, listen to it. It is the whisper of the body saying, "I am tired now. Let me rest." And in honoring that rest, with patience, kindness, and quiet love, you give the greatest gift of all, the freedom to let go with dignity and peace. Sign 3, Noticeable Changes in Breathing. There comes a time in life's final chapter when even the simple act of breathing, something we have done since our first cry, begins to change its rhythm and meaning. Noticeable changes in breathing often appear quietly at first, a faint shortness of breath after a small walk, a need to pause between sentences, or a sigh that lingers longer than usual. But as days pass, these subtle changes grow more pronounced. The breath may come in uneven patterns, sometimes quick and shallow, other times slow and deep, as though the body cannot quite decide which pace to keep. To those watching, it can be deeply unsettling to hear the breaths of a loved one become irregular, strained, or labored, for it is the sound of life's rhythm slowing down. Yet, what many do not realize is that these changes are not always a sign of pain or fear, but rather the body's natural way of easing itself into rest. The lungs, which have served faithfully for so many years, drawing in air, fueling laughter, speech, and song, begin to lose their strength. The muscles that once expanded the chest so easily now tire quickly, and the effort of each breath becomes a gentle struggle. It is as if the body is whispering, "I am tired, and I no longer need to work so hard." This pattern of altered breathing is often known in medicine as Cheyne-Stokes respiration, where breaths come and go in waves, first deep and quick, then shallow, then pausing altogether before returning again. To the untrained ear, these pauses may seem frightening, as though life itself has stopped for a moment, but in truth, they are part of a sacred rhythm. The brain, receiving less oxygen, sends fewer signals to the lungs, allowing them to rest briefly before calling them back to work. In these moments, it is not the body's suffering that we hear, but its surrender. It is the sound of effort giving way to peace. When the body no longer demands constant movement, breathing becomes more irregular, not because the person is fighting, but because they are letting go. The breath becomes a bridge between the body and the soul, an ebb and flow that reflects the gradual loosening of life's hold. To those who sit beside a loved one and listen to these changes, the sound can stir deep emotions. The irregular breaths, the soft sighs, the quiet pauses, all seem to tell a story beyond words. They remind us of the fragility of life, the mystery of the human body, and the gentle transition between presence and absence. It is easy to feel helpless, wanting to do something, anything, to ease the breathing or make it steady again. But the truth is that this process cannot be forced or hurried. Just as we cannot command the tide to remain at the shore, we cannot demand the breath to keep its steady rhythm when the body no longer wishes to hold it. What we can do, however, is bring comfort. A quiet room, a calm tone of voice, and a peaceful presence can do far more than medicine in these moments. Sitting nearby, holding a hand, or simply breathing together creates an invisible thread of peace that reaches the one who is fading. Sometimes, the person may experience what feels like gasping or short bursts of air, especially as the body's reflexes take over. This can look alarming, but it is rarely painful. The body has built-in mechanisms to make the end gentle, even when it does not appear so from the outside. The breath may grow noisy, sometimes producing a soft rattling sound, often called the death rattle. This happens when the person is too weak to clear the fluids gathering in the throat or lungs. Though the sound can be hard for loved ones to bear, it does not usually cause distress to the person themselves. The body, wise and merciful, allows awareness to fade even as the sounds continue. It is the family who hears, and it is their hearts that ache. Yet, understanding the nature of these sounds helps transform fear into compassion. Knowing that your loved one is not suffering, but slowly finding release, allows you to breathe with them, slowly, calmly, lovingly. As the breathing patterns change, you may notice that the pauses grow longer, the breath softer, until there are more moments of stillness than sound. The chest may rise only faintly, the shoulders hardly moving, and the breath may seem to hover at the edge of silence. These moments can stretch endlessly for those who wait beside the bed, watching, counting, hoping for one more breath. It is natural to feel both sorrow and reverence, for breathing is the song of life, and watching it fade is one of the deepest human experiences. But remember, just as the first breath of life was not forced, the last is not meant to be resisted. Each breath has a purpose, and when its work is done, it slips away with grace. The stillness that follows is not emptiness, but peace. It is the moment when the body releases its hold, and the spirit, tired but free, steps quietly into rest. On a deeper level, changes in breathing remind us of how connected we are to the natural world. Every creature that lives breathes in rhythm with the earth, inhale and exhale, life and release. When that rhythm shifts, it is not a failure of the body, but its return to nature's cycle. The air that once filled our lungs becomes part of the world again, carried by the wind, shared with the trees and the sea. There is poetry in that thought, a reminder that we do not truly vanish, but transform. The final breaths are like autumn leaves, falling gently back to the ground from which they came. Emotionally, it is important for loved ones to accept these changes with understanding rather than fear. The sound of uneven breathing can awaken old memories, the rush of panic, the dread of loss, but with knowledge comes calm. Speak softly to your loved one. Whisper words of comfort, even if they cannot reply. Tell them they are safe, that it is all right to rest. Your voice becomes an anchor in their fading awareness, a familiar note in the changing symphony of their breath. Do not urge them to keep breathing or hold on if you see that their body is weary. Instead, offer permission to rest, to let go when they are ready. Such kindness eases both their journey and your own heart. From a medical standpoint, these breathing changes occur because the body's systems are no longer working in harmony as before. The brain, heart, and lungs, once in perfect coordination, begin to fall out of sync. Carbon dioxide builds up in the blood, and oxygen levels drop, leading to slower, irregular breaths. The body no longer needs constant oxygen because its cells are winding down their work. It is a beautiful kind of balance. Even in decline, the body only takes what it needs, no more, no less. In the end, noticeable changes in breathing are among the most profound signs that life is nearing its close. They are not cruel or frightening when understood, they are nature's way of ensuring that the passage from one state of being to another is gentle and gradual. Each breath becomes lighter, softer, and more peaceful, until breathing itself is no longer required. And when that final breath comes, it often arrives not with struggle, but with serenity. There may be one last soft exhale, like a sigh of relief after a long journey, and then silence, a silence so deep it feels like the whole world is holding its breath in reverence. So when you witness these changes, do not see them as suffering, but as sacred signs of the body's final grace. Sit close, hold a hand, breathe slowly, and let your presence be the steady rhythm that your loved one can lean upon. For in those quiet, irregular breaths, you are hearing not just the fading of life, but the gentle whisper of peace drawing near, a peace that awaits us all, tender and eternal. Sign 4. Withdrawal from social interaction. There comes a time in the gentle winding down of life when a person begins to draw inward, to step quietly back from the noise and motion of the world around them. This withdrawal from social interaction is often one of the clearest yet most misunderstood signs that the body and spirit are preparing for rest. It begins subtly, a missed phone call here, a shorter conversation there. The person who once loved company, laughter, and the warmth of family gatherings may now prefer the silence of their room, the dim light of evening, or the comfort of solitude. Friends may wonder why they no longer wish to talk, why visits tire them, or why they seem lost in thought. Yet this turning inward is not rejection, it is reflection. It is the soul beginning to loosen its ties to the earthly world, gently retreating from the chatter of life to focus on something deeper, quieter, and sacred. In many ways, it mirrors the setting of the sun, not a sudden disappearance, but a slow fading of light, tender and natural. As the body grows weaker, the energy once spent on conversation and company must now be preserved. Speaking, listening, and engaging with others may become exhausting, not only physically but emotionally. The heart that has long carried the weight of love, worry, and memory begins to rest. The person may seem distant, even uninterested, yet within them, there is often a quiet clarity, a deep awareness of what is happening. They may be reflecting on their life, recalling memories from long ago, sorting through moments of joy and sorrow. This inner journey requires silence, and in that silence, they find peace. It is not that they love their family any less, but that they are turning their gaze inward, listening to a call that cannot be heard by others. They may still smile when someone enters the room, but their eyes often carry a faraway look, as though they are seeing something beyond this world. For loved ones, this change can be difficult to understand. It may feel like rejection or loss before its time. Families often say, they don't want to talk to us anymore, or, they're pushing us away. But this withdrawal is not a shutting out, it is a preparation. Just as a traveler packs quietly before a long journey, the spirit too begins to prepare. The noise of daily life, the conversations, the worries, the plans, no longer seem important. What matters now is stillness. Many spiritual traditions speak of this phase as the soul's gathering of strength before crossing over, as though it must conserve its energy to make the final passage with peace and clarity. The person may not have the words to explain this, but their body knows, their spirit knows. They are not running from love, they are simply walking toward light. Often during this time, the person may spend long hours resting with their eyes closed, but not asleep. Their breathing may slow, and their hands may rest gently in their lap. They may listen faintly to voices around them without responding. Some may even begin to speak softly to unseen visitors, loved ones who have already passed, or perhaps spiritual presences that come to guide them. To the living, these moments may seem strange or otherworldly, but to the one who is fading, they are comforting. The boundaries between this life and the next begin to blur, and they find themselves drifting between both worlds, no longer fully here yet not entirely gone. In such times, it is best not to pull them back with too many questions or tears. Instead, let them rest in that in-between space, for they are finding their way home. From a medical view, this social withdrawal is also part of the body's natural conservation of energy. As systems slow down, the brain receives less oxygen, making concentration and conversation harder. The person's senses begin to change, they may no longer see or hear as sharply as before, and their awareness may feel clouded. Yet on another level, awareness often deepens spiritually. Many people near the end speak of feeling surrounded by love, light, or warmth. They may become quiet not because they are lonely, but because they feel complete. The world's noise fades, and what remains is peace. To those of us still in the world of busyness, this silence can seem like emptiness, but it is, in truth, fullness. The kind of fullness that comes when one has said all that needs to be said and is ready to listen to eternity. For family and friends, the best response in these moments is gentleness and understanding. Rather than trying to fill the silence with talk, allow it to exist. Sit nearby and let your presence speak more than words. Hold their hand, brush their hair, or simply sit quietly so they know they are not alone. Even when their eyes are closed or their words have faded, they can still sense love. The human heart feels companionship not only through speech, but through energy, the warmth of another's presence, the kindness of a touch, the sound of a familiar voice softly saying, "I'm here." In truth, this quiet companionship is often more healing than conversation. It honors their wish for peace while surrounding them with love. You may notice that, as this withdrawal deepens, the person becomes less interested in the concerns of the world. News, weather, or the events of others' lives no longer hold meaning. They may stop asking about daily routines or seem unconcerned with what happens next. This detachment is not indifference, it is acceptance. The mind is slowly letting go of worldly matters because they no longer belong to the journey ahead. In the same way that autumn leaves drift away from their branches, they are releasing attachments one by one, preparing to rest in stillness. To us, it may look like isolation, to them, it is peace. Emotionally, this stage often brings mixed feelings for loved ones. Some may feel sadness or helplessness, wishing they could bring the person back to conversation and laughter. Others may feel guilt, fearing they have done something wrong. But it is important to remember, this retreat is not about you, it is about them. It is their spirit's way of saying, "I am ready to go inward now." And the greatest gift you can give is permission. Tell them gently that it's all right to rest, that they have nothing left to prove, nothing left to say if words tire them. Your reassurance allows them to relax fully, knowing that you understand. In truth, withdrawal from social interaction is not a closing of doors but an opening of new ones, doors to peace, reflection, and release. The world begins to grow quieter, not because it has ended, but because the person is tuning into a softer frequency, one that speaks not in words but in stillness. When you sit beside them in silence, you are not witnessing loss, but transformation. You are standing at the edge of two worlds, where one life slowly gives way to another. And though it may bring tears, there is beauty in that moment, the beauty of love that does not need words, the beauty of presence that transcends speech, the beauty of peace settling over a soul that has finally found rest. So when you notice your loved one drawing inward, do not fear it. See it for what it truly is, the beginning of release, the gentle turning of the spirit toward the eternal. Let your love be calm, not desperate, let your heart speak softly, not loudly. For in those quiet moments, when words fall away and only presence remains, you will find that love has not faded at all, it has simply changed form. And in that sacred silence, both you and they may discover something deeper than conversation, the unspoken peace that comes when the soul prepares to go home. Sign 5, Significant Decline in Appetite and Thirst. There comes a quiet and tender stage in life's final journey when the desire for food and drink begins to fade, often puzzling and worrying those who love and care for the person. What once brought comfort, joy, and strength, a warm meal, a cup of tea, or even a sip of cool water, now seems burdensome, unwanted, or even unpleasant. This significant decline in appetite and thirst is one of the body's clearest signs that it is preparing for rest. It is not a rejection of nourishment, nor a sign of stubbornness, but rather the body's natural and intelligent response to its changing needs. As life draws near its closing, the body no longer requires the same fuel it once did, for it is no longer building, repairing, or striving, it is gently winding down. The organs slow their work, the stomach ceases its constant churning, and digestion becomes less active. The body begins to conserve energy, directing what remains toward keeping the heart and brain comfortable rather than processing food. In this quiet wisdom, the body chooses peace over effort, stillness over demand. At first, loved ones may notice that meals are left unfinished, or that familiar favorites no longer appeal. The person may take only a few bites or sips before pushing the plate away, saying softly, "I'm not hungry," or "I just can't." This can be difficult to accept, especially for family members who have spent a lifetime showing love through food. Throughout our lives, sharing a meal has been one of the deepest forms of care, a sign of affection, comfort, and connection. So when a loved one refuses food, it can feel like a kind of loss, as though love itself is being turned away. Yet, it is important to understand that this change is not emotional, it is physical. The body simply no longer desires what it no longer needs. Forcing food or drink in such times can actually cause discomfort, as the body struggles to process what it can no longer handle. Just as we do not feed a candle when its flame grows low, so too must we not burden the body when it seeks stillness. As the appetite fades, thirst often follows. The person may no longer ask for water or may only wet their lips occasionally. To the living, this seems concerning. After all, we are taught that hydration is essential to life. But in these sacred final days, the body's needs are different. The systems that once managed balance begin to slow, and the body no longer sends the same signals of hunger or thirst. Forcing fluids can lead to discomfort, swelling, or even shortness of breath. Instead, gentle care becomes the truest form of love, moistening the lips with a damp cloth, offering ice chips, or swabbing the mouth to keep it fresh. These small acts are not about feeding the body but about soothing it, about providing comfort and dignity in its final days. The decline in appetite and thirst is not a sign of suffering, but rather of the body's mercy. It protects the person from unnecessary strain and allows them to drift peacefully without the heaviness of food or the effort of digestion. The hunger that once marked the body's vitality fades because that energy is no longer needed for survival. The body is no longer fighting to live, it is learning to let go. In this, there is a deep and sacred intelligence. Nature itself mirrors this truth. As the day fades into night, the world grows still, and the creatures rest, so too does the human body, wise and ancient, slow its rhythms in preparation for rest. Many families find this stage emotionally painful because it feels like they are losing the person bit by bit. They remember how their loved one once delighted in shared meals, holiday feasts, and favorite treats, and now that joy seems gone. Yet, rather than resisting this change, it is far more peaceful to honor it. Instead of urging them to eat, offer small comforts, a spoon of broth, a lick of honey, or simply the aroma of something they once loved. Often, taste and smell can evoke peace even when the body cannot accept food. Sit beside them with quiet understanding, your presence will nourish them far more deeply than any meal could. The love you give through patience and tenderness is a form of sustenance that goes beyond the physical, it feeds the spirit. Sometimes, the person themselves may feel guilt for refusing food, apologizing for not eating or saying, "I don't want to be a burden." In such moments, offer reassurance. Tell them it's all right, that their body knows what it needs, and that you understand. This reassurance releases them from guilt and brings deep comfort. Remind them that they are loved not for what they eat or drink, but simply for who they are. Love, in these moments, must become quiet and unconditional, love that expects nothing, love that simply is. From a medical view, this change happens because as the body slows, digestion becomes less efficient and energy needs drop dramatically. The body begins to produce natural chemicals, like endorphins, that dull hunger and thirst. The digestive tract receives less blood flow, and the kidneys slow their work. Forcing food or drink when the body cannot handle it can cause discomfort such as nausea, swelling, or shortness of breath. The body's wisdom is clear. It knows when to stop. It asks not for nourishment but for rest. Accepting this is one of the hardest but most loving acts a family can perform. Spiritually, this stage often reflects the soul's release from worldly needs. The desire for food and water, symbols of earthly life, diminishes as the spirit begins to prepare for another form of nourishment, one that comes not from the earth but from peace itself. Many people nearing the end report a feeling of fullness, not in their stomach, but in their soul, a quiet satisfaction, as though they no longer crave what the body once required. In this way, the loss of appetite becomes a sign of readiness, of contentment with what has been lived. It is as though the body says, "I have taken all I need from this world. I am complete." For loved ones, understanding this truth transforms fear into compassion. Instead of worrying about what your loved one is not eating, focus on what they are feeling. Keep their lips moist, their hands warm, their surroundings peaceful. Play soft music, open a window for fresh air, and let them know they are not alone. Hold their hand and speak gently, for even when they do not respond, they can feel your love. The human spirit senses kindness even in silence, even beyond words. In the end, the decline in appetite and thirst is one of the body's kindest mercies. It spares the person unnecessary struggle and allows them to slip into peace more gently. It is the body's way of saying, "You have fed me well through all these years. Now, I need nothing more." And though it may break the hearts of those who watch, it also offers a profound reminder that life is not sustained only by food and drink, but by love, by presence, and by peace. So when you see your loved one refusing food or water, do not feel despair. Instead, see it as a sign of transition, of the body's quiet wisdom guiding them home. Sit with them, hold their hand, and let your love be the nourishment that carries them through. For in those final, gentle days, it is not the meal that matters, but the love that lingers, the silent, timeless bond that neither hunger nor thirst can ever break. Sign 6. Noticeable changes in skin and circulation. As the body draws nearer to the end of its long and faithful service, one of the most visible and tender signs of this final chapter appears upon the skin. The skin, which has sheltered us from the world and told our story through the years, bearing scars, wrinkles, and the marks of a life fully lived, begins to change in color, texture, and warmth. What once glowed with the light of vitality may now take on cooler tones, and the smooth pulse of circulation that once carried life's rhythm through every vein starts to slow its gentle current. This shift is not sudden, nor is it cruel, it is simply the body's quiet surrender, a natural part of the sacred process of letting go. You may notice that the hands and feet, once warm and strong, begin to feel cooler, even when the room is comfortable. The skin may appear pale, bluish, or purplish, especially around the fingers, toes, knees, and elbows. These subtle marbled patterns, sometimes described as mottling, are not signs of pain but symbols of change, whispers from the body that its energy is being gathered and redirected inward, conserving warmth and blood for the heart, brain, and essential organs as it prepares for rest. To those who love and watch, these changes can be difficult to see. The coolness of a once warm hand can feel like a slow goodbye. The soft color fading from the cheeks may stir sadness, for it is through the face and touch that we have always known our loved ones best. Yet these visible signs are not to be feared. They are not evidence of suffering but reflections of the body's profound wisdom. Just as autumn leaves lose their bright color before gently falling to the earth, so too does the body begin to release what it no longer needs. The circulation slows, the blood moves more slowly to the surface, and the skin becomes a quiet canvas, displaying the calm retreat of life's energy toward its center. The skin, being the largest organ of the body, often tells us more than words can express. When circulation lessens, it may become thin, fragile, and easily bruised. Even the lightest touch might leave a mark, or a small bump might take longer to heal. This fragility can feel unsettling to those caring for a loved one, yet it also invites a gentler kind of love, a softer hand, a slower movement, a deeper reverence for the sacredness of this time. The skin that once bore the warmth of youth and the strength of labor now becomes like delicate paper, whispering stories of endurance, care, and time. In these moments, even the simplest gestures, a soft blanket tucked around their shoulders, warm socks placed over cool feet, or gentle lotion massaged into the hands, become acts of grace and devotion. From a physical standpoint, these changes occur because the heart, once strong and tireless, is now working with less force. As it pumps blood more slowly, the body wisely prioritizes its energy, sending warmth and oxygen to the organs that need them most. The extremities, the hands, feet, ears, and nose, receive less blood flow, causing them to cool and pale. The same process affects the skin's ability to repair itself, leading to thinning and discoloration. For doctors and nurses, this is a familiar and natural sign of the body's gradual slowing. But for families, it is an emotional reality, a visible mark that the person they love is nearing rest. It is important to know that these physical signs are rarely painful. Most people experiencing them do not feel distress from the changes in their skin or temperature. In fact, many describe a sense of lightness, as though the body itself is quietly releasing tension. The coolness that loved ones may find concerning often feels soothing to the person experiencing it, for the body has already begun to detach from the sensations that once defined comfort or discomfort. This is nature's kindness, the gradual lessening of awareness of the body's burdens as the spirit turns inward. For those who care for someone in this stage, understanding these changes brings peace and confidence. It reminds us that the focus now is not on curing or correcting, but on comforting. Warm blankets, soft lighting, quiet surroundings, these small things hold great meaning. A hand resting gently upon the skin, even if it feels cool, can convey more warmth than any heater could provide, for love's touch carries a heat that no physical flame can match. In these quiet moments, words often fail, but presence speaks volumes. You need not speak grandly or fill the silence with conversation. The simple act of being there, of touching gently and with respect, becomes a language of love deeper than speech. Sometimes the changes in circulation also bring subtle patterns to the skin, a faint marbling, almost like ripples on still water. These markings, while startling at first glance, are simply another part of the body's preparation. They show that energy is concentrating inward, that the life force which once flowed freely throughout the limbs is now gathering near the heart. Just as a river slows as it nears the sea, so too does the current of life within the body ease as it nears completion. To those who understand this truth, the sight of these changes brings not panic, but reverence. It is as though the body is performing its final work with quiet dignity, reminding us that even in decline, there is beauty and meaning. Emotionally, these moments test our strength. We long to keep our loved ones as we remember them, rosy-cheeked, vibrant, and warm. But in truth, this cooling and fading is not the disappearance of who they are, it is the gentle unveiling of what they have always been beneath the surface. The skin and circulation may change, but the essence, the spirit, the memories, the love, remains untouched. In fact, as the body's color fades, the light of the spirit often shines more clearly through. Many families describe feeling a strange peace in these final hours, as though the room itself grows quieter and more sacred. It is the presence of a soul nearing freedom, and the skin's changes are but the body's final gesture of release. From a spiritual view, the fading of warmth and color can be seen as the soul's preparation to leave the physical form. The body, no longer the main vessel of life, becomes a soft shell through which the spirit passes gently. There is no need to fear these changes, for they are part of life's design. The skin, which has protected us through every season, now gives way to something greater, peace beyond the physical, rest beyond the body's toil. If you are caring for someone showing these signs, do not let your heart be troubled by the coolness of their touch or the pale hue of their hands. Instead, let it remind you of the countless times those same hands offered warmth, comfort, and care throughout their life. Wrap them in soft fabrics, hold them tenderly, and whisper words of love. The warmth of your heart will reach them, even when the warmth of their skin fades. In truth, noticeable changes in skin and circulation are not just biological signs of the body's closing chapter, they are reminders of our shared humanity. They teach us that the beauty of life lies not in its unchanging appearance, but in its ability to move gracefully through every stage, from bloom to rest. When you see these changes, take them as nature's quiet assurance that the body is at peace, doing exactly what it was created to do, to serve faithfully until it is time to let go. And when that time comes, let your love speak through gentleness, for even as the skin cools and the color fades, the warmth of love endures, ever steady, ever alive, beyond the reach of time itself. Sign 7, Withdrawal and Decreased Awareness. As life nears its quiet end, one of the most tender and profound changes a person may show is withdrawal and decreased awareness of the world around them. It often begins gently, almost unnoticed at first. A loved one who once enjoyed conversation now prefers silence, who once watched the sun through the window now closes their eyes more often, who once reached for your hand may now simply rest in stillness. This withdrawal is not rejection, nor a sign of coldness. It is nature's soft preparation, a peaceful drawing inward as the body and spirit begin to part ways. Just as a setting sun fades behind the hills, casting its last golden glow before twilight, so too does the human soul begin to turn from the noise of the outer world toward the calm and eternal light within. In earlier days of illness or aging, a person may still respond to voices, laughter, or gentle touch, but as the days pass, their focus often shifts. They may seem distant, their words fewer, their gaze fixed on something unseen. To those who love them, this change can feel sorrowful and confusing, for the vibrant personality they knew seems to drift away. Yet in truth, this quieting of the mind is not an end of being but a transition, a sacred inward journey that each soul must take alone. Physically, this change occurs because the body is conserving its last energy for the essential work of closing its earthly cycle. The organs slow, oxygen levels fall, and the brain receives less stimulation, leading to longer moments of rest and shorter moments of wakefulness. The person may sleep for long hours, speak rarely, or respond faintly to voices or touch. Sometimes, they may appear as if they are between two worlds, half here, half beyond. To the observer, it may seem that awareness fades like a candle's light dimming in a still room. Yet if one looks closely, there is still a deep peace upon their face, a serenity that speaks of release rather than struggle. In this state, the person is not lost but journeying inward, gathering their spirit for the passage ahead. It is a time when the physical senses fade, but the inner awareness, the soul's quiet knowing, often grows stronger. Many families have felt that their loved one somehow knows more than they can express, that they sense love even without words, that they are already touching the edges of something greater than this world. Emotionally, it is natural for those watching to feel grief when conversation ceases and the eyes that once met theirs no longer open as before. Silence fills the room, and every small breath becomes precious. Yet, this stage invites us to shift from needing outward connection to offering inward peace. Our role becomes one of gentle companionship rather than conversation, presence rather than persuasion. The person withdrawing is not leaving us abruptly, they are simply following the natural rhythm of life's closing moments. Imagine a wave receding from the shore, it does not vanish but returns quietly to the sea. In the same way, the withdrawing person is returning to their spiritual home, moving gently beyond the boundaries of the body that has carried them so faithfully. From a caregiver's perspective, decreased awareness can also mean less interest in food, drink, or surroundings. They may no longer recognize familiar faces or respond to familiar voices. This does not mean that love or memory has vanished, rather, it means that the body's senses are growing dim, and the mind is no longer anchored to worldly details. It is like a dreamer slipping into a deep sleep, aware of peace, not of pain. To some, this might seem like a sorrowful loss, but to the one experiencing it, it is often a release. The weight of physical awareness lifts, and a sense of calm often takes its place. Caregivers can bring great comfort simply by being near, holding a hand, speaking softly, playing quiet music, or simply sitting in stillness. Even when the person seems unaware, the presence of love can still reach them. Science and spiritual wisdom alike remind us that hearing is often the last sense to fade, thus, words of affection, prayers, or soft songs may still touch the heart even when the eyes no longer open. It is in these moments that love becomes purer, deeper, and quieter. No longer expressed through lively talk or shared laughter, it becomes a silent exchange between hearts. The person who is leaving may no longer speak, but their stillness speaks of trust, they are surrendering into the care of something beyond human understanding. For those who remain, this is a time to let go of questions and simply be present. Sit beside them. Hold their hand. Whisper that you are there and that it is all right to rest. Often, those simple acts bring far more peace than any words of explanation. Love, in these hours, does not need sound to be felt, it moves through presence, through the unspoken, through the quiet air that fills the room. Spiritually, many traditions see withdrawal and decreased awareness as the soul's preparation to cross from the physical to the eternal. Just as a traveler packs lightly for a long journey, the soul lets go of unnecessary attachments, worldly noise, daily worries, even the chatter of the mind. In that sacred silence, many people seem to enter a space between worlds. Some speak softly to unseen loved ones, smile faintly as if recognizing familiar faces from beyond, or lift their gaze to something only they can see. These moments often bring wonder to those at their bedside. It is as though a gentle light surrounds them, a calm that words cannot describe. The boundaries between life and eternity grow thin, and one can almost sense the nearness of peace. This stage teaches us something precious about the nature of letting go. It reminds us that awareness does not truly vanish, it merely shifts from the physical to the spiritual. What appears to us as fading consciousness may, in truth, be the awakening of the soul to a higher plane. When a loved one withdraws into stillness, they are not lost to us, they are simply listening to a deeper call. And while our hearts ache for their touch and their voice, we must remember that they are not alone, they are being held by the same love that holds us all, the same eternal grace that gives and receives life in its perfect time. In the final hours, decreased awareness often becomes complete peace. The body rests fully, the breathing slows, and the mind grows utterly still. There is no struggle in this state, only surrender, a return to the natural rhythm of existence. Those who witness it often describe a feeling in the room unlike any other, a profound stillness, a sacred quiet where even time seems to pause. It is as if the world itself bows in reverence to a departing soul. In such moments, grief and gratitude intertwine. We grieve because we love, and we are grateful because we were given the gift of knowing them. So, when you see a loved one withdrawing and becoming less aware, do not think they are gone before their time. Instead, see it as their final act of grace, their peaceful turning toward eternity. Speak gently, hold softly, and let your presence be their comfort. For in that stillness, though their eyes may no longer see and their voice may no longer answer, the love between you remains unbroken. It moves silently between heart and spirit, beyond words, beyond time. And when their final breath comes, it will not feel like an end, but a continuation, a passage into light, where awareness does not cease but expands, where silence becomes peace, and where love, eternal and unchanging, welcomes them home. A peaceful reflection on life and the journey beyond. As we come to the end of this journey through the 7 signs, let us pause to reflect on what these truths truly mean. Life, in all its beauty and struggle, is a delicate dance between beginnings and endings, between holding on and letting go. The signs we have explored are not meant to frighten, but to awaken, a gentle reminder that every moment we are given is precious beyond measure. Our bodies, with all their changes, are not our enemies, they are faithful companions that have carried us through every season of life. When they begin to slow and show signs of nearing the end, it is not a punishment, but a natural passage, an ancient rhythm shared by all who have ever lived. To understand these signs is to see that death is not the end of the story, but a continuation of the soul's timeless journey, one that moves from the seen to the unseen, from the temporary to the eternal. It teaches us to love deeper, to forgive sooner, to speak kind words while we can, and to live with the quiet awareness that each breath is a gift. And when the time comes to face the twilight of life, may we do so with courage, with peace, and with the knowledge that love never ends, it merely changes form. So, let this wisdom not burden your heart but free it. Cherish those you love, care for your body with gentleness, and embrace each day as the treasure it is. If this message has touched your heart and given you comfort, insight, or peace, we invite you to join our growing family at Timeless Wisdom Path. Subscribe to the channel, and together, we'll continue exploring the deep truths of life, aging, and the soul's eternal journey. Your support helps us share more stories of strength, reflection, and love. So click subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and walk with us on this path of wisdom, where every ending becomes a new beginning, and every moment reminds us that life, in all its fragile beauty, is truly timeless.